Ninth grade is always awkward. You get pimples, braces, and the talk. Hi everyone, Julia here for D-News. Health class gets super awkward in high school where they talk about sex and stuff. But a 2011 Centers for Disease Control and Prevention survey indicates that more than 47% of all high school students say they've had sex. So sex ed isn't going away anytime soon. In fact, it's actually a good thing. One study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that students who have any kind of sex ed wait longer to have sex, and when they do, they're more likely to use contraception. So people want it. One poll by NPR and the Kaiser Family Foundation and Harvard's Kennedy School of Government found that 93% of Americans agree that sex education should be taught in schools. But there's a debate on what kind of sex ed is best. Currently, federal funding goes towards two main types of programs. The vast majority of federal funding for sex ed programs goes towards what is called abstinence only. These programs teach that the only safe sex is not having it, and emphasize that waiting till marriage is the best way. When they do mention contraception, it's typically to show how often it fails. This type of sex ed grew in popularity throughout the early 2000s. Funding for abstinence only programs increased from $9 million in 1997 to $176 million in 2007. But more recently, in 2010, funding was also put towards what's called comprehensive sex ed. This can also emphasize waiting to have sex, but it also talks about how to keep yourself safe, like how to use a condom, what birth control options are out there, that kind of thing. Who gets what sex ed is really left up to the states, and there it gets super confusing. Only 22 states mandate any kind of sex education, 18 states and the District of Columbia require that information on contraception be provided, 37 states require that information on abstinence be provided, and even fewer, 13 require that instruction to be medically accurate. So which works better? How do we define better? A successful sex ed program might be defined as one that lowers pregnancy and STI rates. So look at the literature on abstinence-only programs, find some misunderstandings. One study from researchers at the University of Washington found that abstinence meant different things to adults than it meant to students. The intent of the abstinence-only programs was to set up a kind of dichotomy, with any kind of sexual activity on one hand and total abstinence on the other. For kids, the lines got a little blurrier. The researchers said that students were on an escalator. The first step is abstinence, then as they begin to be aware of sex, there are other steps and choices to be made that eventually lead to having intercourse. So it's not surprising that one review by the US Department of Health and Human Services found that none of the individual abstinence programs they reviewed had statistically significant impacts on the rate of sexual abstinence. So basically, teens are having sex whether or not they are taught abstinence. At the same time, teens are having sex, they aren't using protection. One study by Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health found that from 2003 to 2007, contraception use declined. The researchers think it might be the result of abstinence-only programs, which don't mention contraception unless it's to talk about how often they fail. So teens have sex without protection, and with sex sometimes come serious consequences. One study in PLOS One found a link between abstinence-only programs and teen pregnancy. Basically, states that emphasize abstinence-only policies had a higher teen pregnancy rate. The researchers concluded that comprehensive sex ed, or STI education that includes abstinence as the best way to go, was correlated with the lowest teen pregnancy rates. And a lot of other developed nations provide comprehensive sex ed and have low rates of teen pregnancy. To learn more about how other countries teach sex to their teenagers, check out this great video from TestTube.
Europe's low teen birth rate has been partially attributed to progressive sexual education. One researcher found that in the Netherlands, parents and teachers focus less on the dangers of sex and more on the normal, positive aspects.
Alright, so the question is, what was your sex ed class like? Tell us your story down in the comments below. While you're at it, hit those like and subscribe buttons so you don't miss a single episode of D-News.